James was heading to Colorado with his girlfriend and asked me to look after his house for a week. Feed his cat, water the plants, the usual stuff. It was a quiet neighborhood near Syracuse, New York. Snow was piled high, and by 7 p.m. every night, the streets were dead silent. The house was clean, modern, but cold. Not temperature-wise, just empty feeling. But there was something odd about the guest bathroom on the ground floor. The mirror above the sink. It was huge, foggy, almost antique, like it didn't belong in the rest of the house. James once joked, "Don't stare into it too long. It might blink first." I laughed back then. I'm not laughing now. The second night, around 1 a.m., I went downstairs to use that bathroom. Everything was still. The cat was asleep on the couch. But as I washed my hands, I glanced up. I swear I saw something move behind me in the mirror. Just a flicker, a shadow. I spun around. Nothing. But when I turned back to the mirror, there was a handprint on it. Not mine. It wasn't smudged like from breath or steam. It was inside the mirror between the layers of glass. I wiped it. It didn't go away. The next day, I avoided that bathroom entirely and used the one upstairs. That night, around 3:30 a.m., I woke up to the sound of growling. The cat. Low, angry growling. I found her sitting at the bottom of the stairs, tail puffed up, staring at the bathroom door. Her ears were flat. She wasn't moving. I slowly opened the door. Nothing inside. But the mirror again was fogged up. And this time something was written on it. "I see you." I froze. I pulled out my phone to take a picture. But by the time the camera loaded, the fog was gone. The words vanished. The third night was the worst. Couldn't sleep. My heart felt off. I kept hearing creaks and distant taps, but I tried to ignore it. Then, around 2:45 a.m., I heard it, scraping, like long nails dragging across metal, coming from the bathroom. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and tiptoed down. The door was wide open. The light inside was flickering, and in the mirror, I saw him, a man, standing behind me, tall, pale, sunken eyes, unmoving, just watching. I turned around, nothing there, but when I looked back in the mirror, he was closer. I slammed the door shut. My heart felt like it was going to explode. The scraping sound didn't stop for another 30 minutes. In the morning, I was done. I packed up and called James. I told him everything. He was silent for a few seconds, and he said that when he bought the house, contractors couldn't remove the mirror. It was like it was fused to the wall. He finally told me something he'd been avoiding. The last owner, people say he lived in the walls. Literally, they found crawl spaces and holes behind mirrors, especially in that bathroom. They never found his body. That night, I stayed in a motel. At 3:13 a.m., I got a security alert from James's Ring camera. Motion detected inside the house. I opened the app, and there he was, standing in front of the bathroom mirror. Not a reflection, not a shadow. He was really there, on the outside, just standing, looking up at the ceiling. Then he turned to the camera and smiled. I've never stepped foot in that house again. James had the mirror removed, the entire wall torn down. Behind it, they found a hidden space like a small room. Inside was a filthy mattress, piles of old clothes, When Claire Henderson inherited her grandmother's house in Hollow Creek, she never expected she'd actually live there. She was 34, recently divorced and desperate for a reset. Not just for herself, but for her 6-year-old son, Caleb. Her grandmother, Eleanor, had died quietly, or so they said. Natural causes was what the death certificate read. But something in Claire always doubted that. Something about the old woman's cold, glassy eyes in the final photograph made her stomach twist. The house stood alone at the end of Stillwater Road, tucked at the edge of a thick, whispering forest. The land sloped down to a shallow, overgrown stream called Whisperer's Run. Claire had never heard the name before, but the locals seemed to accept it like a birthmark no one questioned. Hollow Creek itself was a sleepy, rural town in West Virginia. One of those places where stories hung thicker than fog and secrets were buried deeper than bones. They moved in on a gray, drizzling morning in late October. The sky was low and heavy, and the wind made the trees hiss like they were angry about something. The moment they stepped inside, Claire felt it. That wrong kind of silence. The kind that wasn't peaceful. It pressed against your ears like deep water. The house was big but tired. Old wallpaper curled at the edges. The air smelled faintly of mildew and ash, and the wooden floor moaned with every step. Caleb took to it faster than she expected. He ran through the halls, laughing, exploring every room like it was a treasure chest. But that first night, the closet in his room wouldn't stay closed. Claire shut it, latched it, even propped a chair against the door. But every morning, she'd find it cracked open just a few inches. Caleb didn't seem to mind. In fact, he told her not to worry. He had made a friend. Claire laughed at first, assuming it was an imaginary playmate. But it didn't feel harmless. It felt old. "His name is the friend in the wall," Caleb said one night at dinner nonchalantly, like he was talking about the mailman. Claire dropped her fork. "Who?" "He talks to me at night. From the vent. He lives in the crawl space. He said the house was sad before we came." Claire stared at the small metal grate behind his bed. It was slightly ajar. That night, she nailed it shut. Days passed. Claire tried to ignore the small things. Doors closing on their own, footsteps in the hallway when no one was there. The way shadows in the corners seemed to stretch just a little too far. But then came the whispers. Soft. She began asking questions of everything, trying to learn about the grandmother's family. People of Hollow Creek didn't care. They smiled, nodded. But when Claire brought up animals, their expressions she stayed with curiosity. I said, pouring coffee with drink. Should have been that place. That place. What did she say? There used to be children down by the creek. All they found were shoes and dolls. Eleanor saw something. She wouldn't talk about it. Claire went home that night and found no stamp, no return address. Inside was a big newspaper. 3 children vacation in Hollow Creek. Only close home. Eleanor saw it. She called it. And used the scribble tracks. Now it was always the same thing. Sometimes it stood behind a window. Sometimes it stood in the room. Claire found a page of her grandmother's journal wedged behind the bookshelf. The handwriting was painful. Sealed the crawl space and its needs to fill it just like a he filled the container. The house is its night. She tried to burn the bridge. Claire would lie awake and listen. Something scraped in the walls. Not rats, no, it was too slow. Too deliberate. Like fingers tracing wood. One night, she watched footage from the baby monitor she had set up in Caleb's room. At 2:13 a.m., the hallway light flickered. Then something long and pale slithered halfway out of the vent. Bent elbows. The door slammed shut. Desperate for answers, Claire went to the local library. There, she met Mark, a retired historian who had lived in Hollow Creek all his life. He helped her dig up property records, church registries, and lost newspaper archives. The Henderson land, it turned out, had once been a chapel, built on stolen Lenape tribal land. In 1901, the congregation had disappeared during a midnight sermon. All that was found were rows of shoes in the pews. "Your family's been keeping something buried," Mark said grimly. "Something older than this town, older than us." Claire nodded slowly. "The crooked." Mark went pale. "You need to leave, now, before it wears Caleb's face." And that's exactly what it did. Caleb changed. He stopped blinking. He stared for hours at corners. He whispered things no 6-year-old should know. One night, he looked up at her and said, "You taste like your grandmother." Claire locked him in his room and called a priest. Father Rowe refused to enter the house. "That place isn't haunted," he said. "It's infected. The crooked doesn't possess. It replaces." "What do I do?" she begged. He handed her holy water. "Don't believe what it says. Not even if it cries in Caleb's voice." That night, the walls screamed. The kind of scream that doesn't come from throats. It comes from roots, from the ground itself. Claire ran to Caleb's room. The vent was open. The crawl space gaped like a throat. She crawled through. The tunnel twisted under the house, deeper than it should have gone, and opened onto the creek bed. There, standing in the mud, was Caleb, or something wearing Caleb's skin. The smile was too wide. Its eyes were reflective, not mirrors' mouths. "Let him go!" Claire screamed, raising the holy water. The creature laughed. "He's inside the house now." Claire ran back up through the tunnel. The house trembled. The basement mirror shattered. Inside, she saw herself, endless versions of herself, trapped. She understood then. The house wasn't cursed. It was a prison. Eleanor had been the warden. Now it needed a new one. "I'll stay," she whispered. "Let him go." The mirror pulsed once. Then Claire was gone. 10 years passed. The house sat empty, until a new family moved in. A cheerful couple. A little girl named Lily. As they unpacked, Lily wandered upstairs, into her new room. She stared at the vent for a long time. Then she smiled. "Hi," she whispered. "What's your name?" From the vent, something crooked whispered back.